Divine Majesty and Judicial Verdict, Isaiah 6 for Preachers, by Stephane Beaulieu. Stephane Beaulieu, who holds a doctoral degree, is an associate professor of Old Testament at Burman University, Lacombe, Alberta, Canada. Isaiah 6 has generally been viewed as the call of Isaiah the prophet. However, it may well incorporate another theological theme found throughout the book, judgment. Scholars have noted the unusual location of Isaiah 6. Why would its content be included at this point in the book? What are the reasons for not placing it at the beginning of the book in chapter 1, or after chapter 3, for example, where it would make more sense chronologically? Scholars observe that the biblical author put it where it is for a specific purpose. It is important to note that Isaiah does not always write chronologically. Often, he structures the book's content for a theological purpose. While the events in Isaiah 6 may have occurred before those in any of the other chapters, the biblical writer strategically placed the chapter where it is for theological reasons. The primary message of the first 5 chapters is that of judgment, or a covenant lawsuit. Isaiah 6 concludes this emphasis on judgment. It also introduces chapters 7 to 12, preparing the reader for the judgment theme in chapters 7 and 8, with King Ahaz, while the hope theme in the last verse of Isaiah 6 reappears in chapters 7, 8, 9, and 11 under the Messianic theme. Thus, Isaiah 6 acts as a thematic and structural hinge, the conclusion for chapters 1 through 5, and the introduction for chapters 7 through 12. Hence, it keeps these chapters all together through the theme of judgment. God wants to challenge us. In chapter 6, Isaiah, as had other prophets, experiences a theophany. He either receives a vision of the heavenly temple or is in the earthly Jerusalem temple when he receives the vision and sees what is happening. Evidence suggests the vision is of the heavenly temple because verse 1 says the, quote, Lord was seated on a high and lofty throne, and the hem of his robe filled the temple, end quote. Furthermore, the seraph's statement, quote, his presence fills all the earth, end quote, shows a perspective beyond the reality of this world. As a result, Isaiah 6 addresses the theological theme of judgment for several reasons. I will demonstrate those reasons below by analyzing key words and concepts. First, in verse 1, the Lord is seated on his throne, as opposed to the earthly king Uzziah, who has died. That the Lord is represented as a living king and is seated means he is in a position for ruling or judging. The Hebrew term commonly translated in this verse as a form of, quote, end quote, to seat, also means, quote, end quote, to dwell, suggesting that God not only sits on his throne but dwells there, administering his kingdom as well as living there. Thus, we could draw a parallel to the White House, where the President of the United States does his administrative work while also living there. The Lord's seat is situated on the throne. However, this throne is only significant because of who sits on it. The throne itself has no intrinsic value or symbolism except that God sits on it. His throne is an everlasting one. Second, the vision portrays the Lord as both high priest and king. The final sentence in Isaiah 6 verse 1 characterizes God's majesty. Quote, the hem of his robe filled the temple, end quote. A small part of God's robe, the hem, fills the temple. this description of his robe does not relate to royal apparel. In the Hebrew Bible, the term hem refers to the high priest's robe. Therefore, the chapter describes God as both a king and a high priestly being. Hence, such a combination of kingly and high priestly roles suggests the function of someone who is able to be a judge, both politically and spiritually. The use of the word temple, hekel, which can refer to either a palace or a temple, confirms this. Thus, as with the hem of the robe, the temple is a place for both a king and the high priest to minister. In Isaiah 6, verse 1, then, God is acting as both king and high priest, and both offices possess the power of judgment. In Isaiah 6, verses 2 and 3, the seraphs attend and worship God, demonstrating the importance of who he is and of his ministry as king and priest. Quote, "Holy, holy, holy, the Lord of the army, host." End quote. Similarly, we find the description in Isaiah 6 paralleled by Daniel 7, verses 9 and 10, in which the Ancient of Days is clothed in a quote-unquote robe, seated on a throne flaming with quote-unquote fire, with quote-unquote heavenly beings ministering to him. Both descriptions confirm the presence of God as king and high priest, sitting in judgment. Third, the judgment theme continues in the altar and smoke imagery of Isaiah 6. Smoke often appears in conjunction with theophanies. For example, when God rested on Mount Sinai, smoke shrouded the mountain. Isaiah had already stated that God would meet on, quote, Mount Zion by a cloud by day and smoke with the glow of flaming fire by night, end quote, as when he led the children of Israel out of Egypt. Smoke surrounds God to cover and protect the priest and high priest when they enter his presence. It acts as a veiling mechanism. On the Day of Atonement, when Aaron went into the most holy place, he first took a censer with him, using coals of fire from the altar and sweet incense to make a cloud of incense that would cover the mercy seat lest he die. In Isaiah 6, verse 6, the seraph takes a coal from the altar, though scholars debate whether it is the altar of burnt offering or the altar of incense, which makes a significant difference for the judgment theme. One argument in favor of the altar of incense is that the angel is in the Lord's presence, as in verse 2, and one of them comes to Isaiah from within the temple or the seat of God. Perhaps the clearest argument for the altar of incense is that the temple is filled with quote-unquote smoke, as it would be during the Day of Atonement. The altar of incense rests just before the veil that separates the holy place and the most holy place, fulfilling two functions, one in the holy place with the daily sacrifice, and the other in the most holy place on the Day of Atonement. The smoke that continues to fill the house of God also protects sinners such as Isaiah, more particularly on the Day of Judgment. If we perceive Isaiah here as a priest, the prophet may be acting as a high priest who is intervening between God and the people whom Isaiah represents. God wants to choose us. In verse 5, Isaiah exclaims, quote, "Woe is me, I am lost," end quote. He may have said it primarily because he saw God, but there may still be another reason: the imperfection of Isaiah and his realization of being a sinner while seeing God. The unholy cannot be found with the holy. Isaiah knew his condition and that of his people, He also realized that when sin is found in people during the day of judgment, the result is catastrophic. As a matter of fact, those people are cut off. If Isaiah 6 represents a judgment theme, Isaiah's reaction and fear of being cut off are valid, and this scenario resonates with the judgment day in the book of Leviticus. It is important to note that Isaiah 6 verse 5 employs a different word to communicate the idea of quote-unquote cut off than the one used in Leviticus 23 verse 29 regarding the Day of Atonement. However, the idea suggested by the word in Isaiah 6 verse 5 prompts the reader to wonder whether this scenario is potentially related to the judgment day in the book of Leviticus. In Leviticus 23 verse 29, the Day of Atonement represents the cleansing of sins from those who have already been forgiven and are loyal to God. But those who are disloyal and not already forgiven are condemned. We find forgiveness for Isaiah in Isaiah 6 verse 7, which continues from the previous verse the idea of what happens to sin. Isaiah proclaimed in the previous chapters that Judah was self-sufficient. While the prophet may have relied on God, Isaiah's nature is like any other human being who tends to depend upon themselves and sees no need for God. Thus, Isaiah, like the people of Judah, needed purging. Isaiah's lips were touched with the coal, the lips being the part of the body recognized as the place of pollution. The coal, fire, is a means of purifying and judging, a continuation of the same theme earlier in the book. What is being taken away and purged? Isaiah 6 verse 7 gives two components. Quote, "Your iniquity is taken away," end quote, and, quote, "Your sin is atoned, covered for," end quote. The terms iniquity and sin are both used in relation to the sanctuary and its sacrifices. The term iniquity describes Cain's punishment for killing his brother, and his outcry against God is also against the judgment he receives for his deeds. In contrast, Isaiah's iniquity is taken away, removed from God's presence. Sin is a prominent term in the Old Testament, often related to the temple offerings. Quote, "Your sin is atoned for," end quote, could refer to the purification offerings, which removed sins forgiven by God from the offerers, or purified them from physical ritual impurities. However, Isaiah 6 raises the possibility of atonement through cleansing the sanctuary due to moral purification of sins already forgiven. Chapter 6 overall thus reveals a judgment scene, with verse 7 indicating the removal of iniquity and sin from the sanctuary. The judgment instills no fear because God's mercy provides protection. The blessed hope of this passage is that judgment is not something to be afraid of when we understand that God desires redemption for human beings, not destruction. Finally, in Isaiah 6, verses 9 to 13, God sends the prophet with a message to the people. It echoes one of the priests sounding the trumpet before the day of judgment, calling people to prepare for that special day. Isaiah may have even understood the message to refer to the judgment, since he asked in verse 11, quote, "How long, my Lord?" end quote, similar to Daniel 8 verse 13 and Revelation 6 verse 10. God wants to change us. Isaiah 6 is more than a passage about Isaiah's call. It reveals to us that God is doing the work of cleansing by removing sin from the lives of his people. Isaiah can testify by his life how God changed him And in turn, God calls us to reveal what He has done in our lives. The judgment demonstrates how faithful and just God is. He is not content to leave anyone where they are currently in their lives. Since God is concerned about our redemption and restoration, He wants to change us in preparation for His imminent return. Will we allow God to cleanse us in these last days? For bibliographical and biblical references on this article, and for much more content for pastors and church leaders, please visit ministrymagazine.org.